You're watching First Alert 7 News at 9 on the CW and live on YouTube with Lauren Munt and weather with Tom Tiefertiller.
Thanks for joining us for First Alert 7 News on the CW, and thanks to those of you joining us live on YouTube. I'm Lauren Munt, and an Odessa father is fighting for his life after he was the victim of a hit and run. That's our top story tonight.
You destroyed a whole life. You destroyed a whole family.
The incident happened at around 1:30 a.m. Sunday. 25-year-old Alex Bingham has a low chance of recovery after a drunk driver hit him right in front of his home. Early Sunday morning, his wife Faith heard noises outside, so Alex decided that he'd go check out what was going on. A neighbor's Ring camera then captured the tragedy that unfolded next. As Alex is outside, a drunk driver goes over a curb and hits him, and that would change his life forever.
It's just so wrong that they can take a life like that and turn it all upside down just for a night of fun. They're having a night of fun and they ruined somebody else's life and the kid's life. It's just not fair. It's just not fair.
The man responsible for the incident was arrested, but as of today, he's out on bond. Continuing to track crime, Brewster County sheriffs arrested a man for making a terroristic threat to a hospital. This man is Lawrence Foy, and he allegedly made a 911 call threatening the Big Bend Hospital and, quote, all of law enforcement. Once he was identified, deputies arrested him at his Terlingua Ranch home, and he tried to barricade himself in his house, but was eventually taken into custody safely. He's been charged with terroristic threat and silent or abusive calls to 911. Over in Midland, this woman, Jacqueline Hinahos, has been arrested for injuring a child and violating federal probation. According to the Midland County Sheriff's Office, when responding to a call on West County Road 138, a child told deputies that they felt, quote, unsafe to go home. And other family members who were there told deputies that they thought the child was being physically abused. An investigation into the situation led to a probable cause warrant, and Hinahos was then arrested. We've got an update for you on the man who shot a Texas police chief. After 24 days, the manhunt for Seth Altman has finally ended. The Texas Department of Public Safety and Hall County Sheriff's Office have confirmed that Seth Altman was arrested right before 5 o'clock on Friday. That was by the Fort Worth Police Department. Authorities in Fort Worth say that the arrest was made without incident, and he's currently in custody at the Tarrant County Jail for attempted capital murder of a peace officer. Sources say a security guard at Union Gospel Mission in Fort Worth reported seeing Altman and called the police. It ended a nearly month-long search for him after on October 3rd, Seth Altman shot Memphis Police Chief Rex Plant as officers were attempting to serve an arrest warrant. Chief Plant was taken to a Lubbock hospital and he's since been released. Seth Altman is being held on a $1 million bond. Also across the state, a Texas man is now facing felony charges after police say he punched an election worker. 63-year-old Jesse Lutzenberger went to a voting location on Thursday in San Antonio. He was wearing a red MAGA hat, and poll workers asked him to remove it twice.
Wearing clothing supporting a political candidate, which that's electioneering, and it's certainly something that you're not supposed to do.
Now, instead of taking off that hat, investigators, say that Lutzenberger punched a 69-year-old election clerk. He was then arrested and charged with felony assault and injury to the elderly. The clerk is back working at the polls, where security has been increased. Continuing with your election headlines, a CBS News poll shows that 58% of likely voters consider the U.S.-Mexico border a major factor in their choice for president, a topic that both candidates have talked a lot about.
We'll have the strongest economy, the most secure borders, the safest cities, the most powerful military.
We have to have a secure border, and we have to have a comprehensive pathway for citizenship.
Here in West Texas, Congressman Tony Gonzalez has made his opinion known across the nation. The local representative recently wrote an op-ed that was published in the Wall Street Journal, sparking lots of debate over immigration and public safety. Gonzalez, who represents Texas's 23rd district, has shared new immigration and customs enforcement data that highlights what he describes as a rising threat from non-detained migrants that have criminal histories. The data that Gonzalez refers to is from ICE shows that more than 662,000 non-citizens with criminal records are currently on ICE's national docket, with approximately 647,000 of them not being detained.
America is built on immigrants coming here legally, and I think it's a very positive thing. We want that. We want folks to come over legally. If you're vetted, we know who you are, and you want to go to work, we have a job for you. But if you're coming over to the country illegally, it has to be known that is not. We're not going to stand for that, and especially if you're a criminal, especially if you're a convicted criminal.
Now, this report notes a 66% drop in deportations. That's since 2020. Gonzalez says this fight is about protecting legal migrants while ensuring that these criminals here are illegally removed. And we are just a week away from Election Day, but many of you have already voted. Early voting began last week and it continues this week. Here's a look at the turnout in Midland and Odessa. We're going to start in Ector County, where there are 5 early voting spots. You can see those right there on your screen. Each one of them has seen thousands of people come through. And as of last night, more than 16,500 people have already cast their ballots. That's in Ector County. Meanwhile, in Midland County, even more people have already voted. Over 26,000 of you have made your filled out ballots. Midland County also has 5 early polling locations, full list of polling locations for all of our local counties. They can be found up on our website, firstalert7.com. And over the past 2 weeks, together with Basin PBS, First Alert 7 has brought you 11 different debates with candidates that are running for office in both Midland and Odessa. Now, with Election Day just over a week away, we're bringing you parts of those debates just in case you might have missed them. We started today with a recap of the MISD School Board candidate debate. You can find that up on our website. That's firstalert7.com. Now, if you voted in any Texas election before, you've probably noticed that election workers are at the polls. But not everyone knows that their job goes beyond handing you a ballot. Chris Cordova tells us what election workers are supposed to do if something goes wrong.
Running into an issue at the ballot box can be a voter's worst nightmare and can leave many voters like Jason Gonzalez wondering what's next.
It's not very clear. I don't think it's really clear as far as if you have problems, what your resolutions for those are and where to find it.
But the solution? Election workers, specifically election judges. What should a voter do if they encounter a problem while filling out their ballot?
If a voter has a problem, they need to let the election judge or clerk know. Just raise your hand and they'll come over and assist you. And they can answer your questions to the best of their ability and get your vote counted.
Mary Mann trains election judges for McLennan County. She says the judge's main job is to assist voters, but it's critical they remain neutral through the process.
Once an election worker, judge, clerk, walks into the doors of the vote center, they are nonpartisan.
Another concern for voters across the country is voter and election worker safety.
But I do think that there are challenges that we face as a nation, that there are areas that someone could feel unsafe.
Mann says an election judge can go as far as arresting an individual causing a disturbance, although the scenario has never happened before.
They need to call the elections office. They need to approach the voter, if possible, and ask them to stop whatever behavior is out of order. And the election judge needs to be sure that their physical safety and everyone's physical safety in that vote center is not at risk.
All right, we have had some beautiful weather to get out and vote. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Tom Tieferteller for your weekly forecast. Tom?
Yeah, but we've been dealing with a little bit of wind out there. In fact, wind gusts were up there today. Taking a look at the maximum wind gusts we had across the area, up around 30 to 35 miles an hour, commonplace gust earlier today. And it kind of held temperatures down a little bit. Not as hot as yesterday, into the mid to upper 80s out there, but plenty of 90s western Permian Basin into the Trans-Pecos and the Presidio Valley a little bit earlier today. We're cooling off some out there as we look at the Tall City skyline. We're into the mid 70s, so it's very comfortable. Still 80 out towards Wink and Pecos and 82 in Presidio at the present time, as winds are sustained around 20 to 22 miles an hour across the Permian Basin, with gusts upwards to 30 miles an hour, and they're going to stay up quite a bit into the overnight hours. And that's going to keep temperatures up a little bit. Lower 60s is what we'll be dealing with overnight tonight. Plenty of wind on the way tomorrow, and it's all ahead of the next storm system and cold front is going to bring some cooler changes, but not scary ones, to the Halloween forecast.
It's finally starting to feel like fall, which means it's kind of finally starting to feel like football weather. Last week was the iconic football game between the Permian Panthers and the Midland Legacy Rebels, and the Rebs got the upper hand, giving Mojo their first loss of the season Friday night. Heading into halftime, it was a close battle, with Legacy leading 28-24. Turnovers played a huge factor in the game, with Permian having 3 and Legacy being able to capitalize on their opportunities. Permian lost 49-38 and have their first blemish on their otherwise perfect record. Jeff Ellison gives a lot of credit to the Rebels and acknowledges what his team needs to do going forward.
Oh, they did a great job. It's always going to be a battle in that game. The staff does a great job. Our kids, both kids, on both sides of the ball, play extremely hard during that game. So every year it's going to be a battle. We just made mistakes that happen in a football game. We have to eliminate those. I don't think, none of them were intentional, but we can't turn the ball over. And we got to do a great job of correcting the mistake.
Permian will continue at home this week when they host Friendship. Kickoff Friday night will be at 7 o'clock. Switching over to the Odessa Broncos, they've had a bit of a slow start to their district schedule, losing all 3 of their games so far. That leaves them at the bottom, tied with the Central Bobcats, and that's their opponent this week. Odessa has dealt with a lot of injuries in 2024, notably at their quarterback. Despite the district record and low momentum at this point in the year, this does not change the team's mentality. Their head coach, Eric Hartman, wants to honor this team, and especially the seniors, by letting them play and giving his all with them throughout the rest of the season.
We're still not mathematically completely out of it, and so there's still some ways around it. We need some help, but we kind of control our own destiny too. If we got to win the next 2, and so that's kind of been instilled with them that, hey, we can come out of all the things that have gone wrong this year. If we can go and win these next 2 and the things work out for us, there's possibilities to make the playoffs. Our guys this year, I don't put them aside. Those guys are our guys this year, and we let them go, and we're going to finish strong with them.
The Broncos hit the road for their last away game of the season. Again, they're taking on the Central Bobcats. Coming up, it's Red Ribbon Week, and we're learning more about the 2024 Drug-Free Awareness Campaign happening here in West Texas. That's next. Red Ribbon Week has become a staple of grade school. It's the nation's largest and longest running drug use prevention campaign, and it kicked off this week for many schools right here in West Texas. That includes school in ECISD, MISD, and Big Spring. The 2024 Red Ribbon Week theme is Life is a Movie, Film Drug Free. It's meant to get students to think about the direction that they want their lives to go. And educators say the Awareness Week is more important than ever because of the way social media and drug accessibility have forced everyone to acknowledge how young kids are when they are first exposed to drugs.
At a pretty young age, our data shows us that young people in the Odessa, Midland, Permian Basin area are using alcohol at about 12.7 years of age, tobacco or vaping about the same, 12.7, and marijuana about 13.4.
The Permian Basin Regional Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse uses this entire month of October to teach students of all ages and all over West Texas the skills that they need to live healthy lives.
Well, more wind is in the forecast. It's all ahead of the next cold front that will be arriving just in time for Halloween. We'll talk about it up next.
Now, from the First Alert 7 Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller.
Well, we show you what we're watching in the upper levels of the atmosphere. It's going to bring some changes to our forecast. We're talking about this big trough of low pressure across the western U.S. I'll move out of the way and show you right here what's going on. This is really digging down, and this is bringing a change to the forecast. It's going to develop a storm system that's going to swing one front through. That's going to happen Wednesday night into early Thursday, and that's going to have a little bit of punch to it. Now, it's not going to be a blue northern or anything like that, dramatic drops in temperatures, but we will get out of the 90s and we will see temperatures down in the 40s for lows coming up early on Halloween. So it looks like it's going to be nice and a little fallish for trick-or-treating coming up on Thursday. And then as this whole system moves out, it's going to bring some rain chances to the forecast coming up on Friday into Saturday, and also another cool front that will bring some cooler temperatures to our forecast heading into next week. Right now across the state of Texas, things have been pretty quiet. There were a couple of showers around Lake Jackson, Angleton, and also down towards Palacios along the Texas Gulf Coast. We just saw some high clouds drift across the area, and that was really about it. As temperatures currently across the state starting to cool off after seeing some 90s earlier, back into the mid-70s for many locations. So again, not too bad a day out there. There's your high temperatures. showing both of them there, but the first one was current temperatures here. Now this is what we saw today in the way of high temperatures, again showing you plenty of 90s across the area. That wind's going to stay up overnight tonight. We're just looking at the gust here, and they're going to be up around 30 to 35 miles an hour plus, and around 30 miles an hour for most of the day on Tuesday. So get ready for another dose of wind before we see that next cold front start to roll in, and that's going to happen later on into the early morning hours on Wednesday. I should say late hours on Wednesdays when we'll see that front roll in, so plenty of wind for the next couple of days. Lower 60s on the way across the area tonight, lower 80s for tomorrow, but some 90s hanging on around Pecos and Fort Stockton, and there will be plenty of wind until that front whips through, and that'll happen late on Wednesday, early into Halloween, dropping temperatures quite a bit, and we're going to see some cooler temperatures into the weekend where we'll see some rain chances in the forecast, maybe even a few rumbles of thunder, especially on Saturday. Don't forget about that time change. We fall back 1 hour early on Sunday morning, and we'll see a rain shower or two stay in the forecast all the way through the early part of next week with another stronger front on the way, bringing some cooler weather later next week.
Up next here at 9, the Federal Aviation Association is hoping to reduce the amount of close calls on the nation's runways. The details in your travel news, that's up next. In some travel news, the FAA has started an audit of 45 major airports, aiming to reduce the close calls on the nation's runways. Just days ago in San Diego, air traffic controllers briefly put 2 Southwest planes on a potential collision course. Chris Van Cleve talks about the dangers with 2 pilots who survived yet another close call.
Southwest aboard.
As this NTSB animation shows, a FedEx 767 came within 150 to 170 feet of landing on top of a Southwest 737 at the Austin, Texas airport last February. It was an extremely foggy morning. Air traffic controllers in the tower couldn't see the runway, but cleared the Southwest flight to take off and FedEx to land. FedEx Captain Hugo Carvajal was at the controls.
And as soon as the tower cleared them to take off, we knew that there was an issue because we were about 3 miles, which is too close at that point.
Just moments before possible disaster, FedEx First Officer Robert Pradine saw something through the fog below.
I saw a light that turned out to be the position light on the Southwest airplane, and quickly saw the silhouette following that and called for a go-around.
What goes through your mind as you're seeing an airplane that shouldn't be there?
Obviously, there's a moment of disbelief. Am I really seeing this? Is this really an airplane right there? And then training and experience kick in.
Last Wednesday, another close call near the Austin airport when the FAA says a Cessna unexpectedly flew within hundreds of feet of an American Airlines 737 on approach to land from Chicago, forcing the pilots of American Flight 2587 to take an evasive maneuver before landing safely. And earlier this month in San Diego, controllers briefly put two Southwest planes on a potential collision course after clearing one plane to taxi across the runway the other was using to take off.
Southwest 1478 cancel takeoff clearance.
Former NTSB Chair Robert Sumwalt was part of an FAA committee reviewing close calls that made 24 safety recommendations.
I certainly think things are moving in the right direction. It's important that those of us in the aviation profession, we not lose vigilance and that we continue to push for better procedures, better technology, better staffing, and that we don't get complacent.
The FAA says close calls, especially those happening on runways, are rare and on the decline. In a new audit, the agency will look to identify any additional gaps in procedures, equipment, or processes at the nation's 45 busiest airports. Recommendations to further reduce the risk of runway close calls are expected by next year. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Washington.
Well, before we go, we want to check that 10-day forecast once again and show you that more wind is on the way over the next couple of days. But a cold front arriving late on Wednesday is going to bring just a hint of chill and some nice fall weather to Halloween's forecast.
Finally starting to feel like fall just before Christmas.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us. We've got more news coming up at 10.